Jay, we spent a bunch of time during yesterday's show discussing the reworked deal between Nick Chubb and the Cleveland Browns. They cut down his base salary. It's incentive-based, so we can earn it all back. We came into this offseason thinking Deshaun Watson was number one on AB's list of contracts to restructure to open up cap space. We are now at April 12th. It hasn't happened. Free agency has passed. The draft's coming up. They've already made trades. At this point, do you still think the Browns have a need to restructure Deshaun Watson's contract, or are they better off suited just letting the last 3 years ride out and then evaluating what to do with Deshaun's future?
So I'm going to turn to G. Bush because I have a question on this. What would be, other than to create more cap space, his contract in a vacuum, what would be the benefit of doing that?
If they want more money now. So
more money available.
Yeah. So say for instance, if they want more money available to themselves today, and they wanted to go out and get somebody or trade for somebody, they could say, okay, well, Deshaun, we can restructure your contract. We'll give you some more upfront money today, and we'll kick that contract down the road, and we'll have more money today to spend on somebody else. Now, for me, I always find this is very funny, right? Because I'm team. This money is imaginary, and it is imaginary. When you have a league that controls themselves, there's nobody that tells them what they can raise the salary cap to. There's nobody.
Well, but there is a structure in place that determines what it's going to be.
Yes.
They don't arbitrarily pick a number.
They don't arbitrarily, but there's nobody that stands over them and said, now listen, you better not go over $216 million or whatever the case may be.
Right. The way I understand it, it's a joint deal between the owners and the players union, because per the agreement between the players and the league, there is a percentage of all revenue that has to go to players.
Right.
So that determines the salary cap. My understanding of it.
And my understanding is, when I used to go to college, right, we'd be a calculus class, so we sit there. And back in the day, we used to have these nice TI-86 calculators. They've banned them from now.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, listen, let me just hang out with the people who program these things so I could just plug the formula in and just get the numbers out. They came up with a nice little way to shut people like me down. It's like, listen, it's called show your work. It's like you need to turn in that scrap sheet of paper along with that. The reason I'm saying that is math, you can make math say anything, right? You can make, the Browns are really good at making money disappear and money appear.
They seem to be.
And I always ask, you tell me the person the Cleveland Browns could not get or had to cut because they didn't have the money.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. We were worried about Amari Cooper. We were worried about Jerry Jeudy. We just got the Nick Chubb deal, right? We worried about a bunch of people with this money. My thing is
there going to be a day of reckoning, though, where we keep kicking the can down, and we've done that on so many players? Look at Conklin's deal. Look at Watson's deal. I mean, the slide that we showed with Watson, for the next 3 years, he's 25% of the team's payroll.
Yeah.
25%, one player.
Yeah.
By the way, if you do the math, he's 2% of the roster. He's going to take up 25% of the team's salary cap. That is a mind blow.
That's crazy. And I think they're saving that. The restructure of Watson's deal it's a trump card. It's like playing spades, Earl. Well, that's the big joker.
All right, so they've
already waiting to do it at the right time.
Yeah.
They've already restructured the deal once. And me and Mike was talking about this morning. They already owe him somewhere like $9 million the year after he's set to be a free agent, right?
That's dead cap money too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I read an article on Dogs by Nature written by Jared Mueller yesterday, and he said that the Browns could save $33 million by restructuring Deshaun Watson's deal. Now they've already said they're somewhere like $13 million. They have like $13 million in cap space now since the Nick Chubb restructure. They have to save some of that to go towards the rookie class, which equates to like $1 million against the cap. Right now, they are set to be $17.8 million over the cap going into next year. I wouldn't touch Deshaun Watson's contract this year because, to your point, eventually, you go have to pay up. Right now, you're already in a situation to where you owe him money a year after he's set to be a free agent. I think if Deshaun Watson goes out and plays very well and then stays healthy all year, I think next year you could see a restructure or even a brand new deal.
And with years added.
To it. So I don't think it makes sense necessarily to do it this year. I think that
That's
with the
smart.
restructures that you've already done, you've already created at least $13 million in cap space. And with that, you have enough money to pay your rookie class. You still got enough money to make another move in free agency, and you got enough money to roll over into next year's cap. So
right, despite the fact that there will be over next year by a
but you can roll it over, and then once that cap number goes up, you'll be cool.
Yeah. So I have a question for Mike, because I know you understand the cap very well, certainly better than I do. If part of restructuring his deal meant adding years to it, that would be an absolute positive 1,000% no for me. Is that part of the deal? So in other words, could they just restructure for the 3 remaining, not add anything, just the 3 remaining?
You mean, I guess in theory you could restructure it down to, say, use $30 million just for example, to cut it from 64 to 34, and then add $15 million to his cap hits next season, so his cap hit would be $79 million the last 2 years.
I mean, that's untenable. That number is untenable.
Usually when a restructure works is they drop the cap number and then they add it in void years.
Yes.
So if they restructured Deshaun again, that number in 2027 would probably go up, and it'd probably be another void year in 2028 where Deshaun is either on the team or not. We don't know what he'll be in 2028, but they'll be paying him those extra years.
You're hamstringing yourself if you do that. And look, I love what you said, and that when I originally saw the question, not having a full and complete understanding of how the moving parts to the salary cap work, because once upon a time I thought I knew. But I clearly don't, because all of these deals that have put them in peril, and they were at one point projected to be way over the salary cap, they do all this weird math and restructuring, and now, we're good. I can't help but thinking, I'm relating it to a household. And if a household makes $10,000 a year, but they spend $12,000 a year, they're kicking $2,000 a year down the road, correct? Which includes interest payments and everything else. So it's far more than $2,000. Somehow, some way, there has to be something punitive in the future for constantly being over the salary cap. And I don't know when that hits us.
Or like the thing about it, like so you know, I do a lot of research. I'll be in the weeds with different things. When people talk about the national debt, they compare it to households all the time.
Sure.
Right? But that's not a true comparison, because, you know, when you're a household.
Well, the national debt is different.
It's different.
And the reason it's different is because just to service the interest on that number is $1 trillion a year.
And people believe that everything that we have is funded by your tax dollars. And it's not. There's not enough tax dollars to
We're borrowing an astounding amount of money every year.
That's not.
And now with the interest rate being higher, it was fine to add to the debt when the interest rate was 0. You're borrowing money now at 5, 6, 7%. You are putting yourself, now on the national debt, there is a day of reckoning. Anybody that thinks there isn't doesn't know economics at all. There will be a day of reckoning. I just don't know if there will be with the salary cap.
I don't,
because I keep thinking it has to be.
I don't think there's a day of reckoning for either one. I do believe that if you are not a sovereign country and you don't print your own money, we print our own money and our debt is in our own money majorly.
No, not anymore. We borrow internationally for a large sum of that, and that's the problem. And the other part of that problem is we now spend more money on the interest of our national debt than we pay in national security, in our defense. So at some point, our standing as a world power is in major jeopardy. Well, and by the way, the company or the country that is loaning us most of the money, China, is all good with that because they're the ones nipping at our heels. That's way off topic. I don't want to go down that road.
We don't want to go to
at some point, the bill collector comes due.
But the NFL is the bill collector, right? So think about it. They create the salary cap. They say, okay, arbitrarily, this is the salary cap.
Not arbitrarily. There's a system. There's a formula for it.
But nobody is going to say, no, we're going to cut the cap. The cap got cut during COVID.
Well, the cap will get cut if revenue gets cut. That's it. That's the only thing that can affect it.
But the NFL has shown that revenue has consistently gone up.
Yes.
And so you may say, well, look, we don't know whether or not the NFL from an economic standpoint, can keep counting on gains after gains after gains after gains, right? But the TV deals keep going up. It's the most popular sport. And as you keep doing that, the players are like, okay, well, look, that's why they're willing to pay those 18 games, because they're going to get a bigger part.
My question is, and I wish we had a capologist, somebody that's their specialty. Each team has one. The Browns must have a good one. Mm-hmm. I just remember having discussions during my years at ESPN with people that knew this. That was their jam. Mm-hmm. That was what they studied. ESPN has an expert that's just a cap person. And he always used to drill in to my head and anybody heads that was watching or doing a segment with them. You can exceed the cap. It's punitive, but at some point there will be a reckoning. And I don't know when that is for the Browns. It's amazing to me how effectively they keep kicking that can down the road. But we have seen in the past, recent past, Denver, Atlanta, others that were mired in cap hell. And I don't know. I kind of feel like it's got to happen to us at some point.
You know, at one point, I remember when Sean McVay became the hottest head coach, and then you start seeing people, mimic the Sean McVay offense, right? I think I've read articles about people mimicking the way that Andrew Berry does business as a general manager. You're starting to see other GMs kind of
be very good
adapt
at
what he's doing. I hear you and I hear you. Jay, I'm kind of in line with you. At this point, I used to think it eventually would catch up with the Browns with the salary cap. I don't think so anymore, because the salary cap continues to go up after COVID. We've seen a significant increase in the salary cap this year. The salary cap next year is projected to jump another significant amount. Not as big as this year, but it's still big enough that...
Well, one of the things that the league's doing is they're offering the networks or streamers the right to purchase the Christmas Day game.
Right.
And the expected bid is supposed to start at $100 million.
Yeah, so that's
so there's another, if they do 3 games on Christmas Day and that's the expectation, you just added another $300 million to the revenue pot.
The point I'm getting at is, even if that continues to jump, I think what makes the Browns situation so unique is that you have an owner that's willing to always flip base salary into signing bonus money. And as long as you're willing to convert salary into signing bonus money, the Browns is going to always be ahead of the curve, because Jimmy Hassam clearly don't mind writing the check.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess that's it. You have to be, just like Dan Gilbert was willing to go into the luxury tax, which was incredibly punitive. I think it was $1 or maybe $2 for every dollar over. And he just said, it's the cost of winning a championship, and he wrote those checks. So if Jimmy's the same guy, then
the basic is
let him pay it, and fans don't worry about it.
Every NFL team got to deal with the same salary cap. So why is every team situation is always different? It's because every owner is different. Not every owner is willing to reach in their own pocket and convert base salary to signing bonus.
Some people ain't got it.
Some teams don't. But you would think that would give the team doing that such a significant advantage that they would be the Patriots or the Steelers. Like, they would always be winning.
You want to hear a crazy stat, Jay?
But in this case, we don't have a history of winning, and he's doing this.
This is a crazy stat. For 2024, cash spent, which is not salary cap, but the actual cash spent, Jimmy Hassam is paying checks for $338,001,900 and $190,102 this season.
Where does that rank?
Number 1.
By how much?
Number 2, San Francisco. Once again, Cleveland, $338,190,000.
And what is San Francisco?
San Francisco, $284,840.
Guys.
It's almost 50. It's a little over 50 million more on cash spent, and we can say a lot of things about Jimmy Hassam. Criticism fair.
That's not cap.
His willingness
you're going
to
say
spend,
that this is a positive for Jimmy Hassam.
The fact that he's willing to spend is a positive.
I'm going to tell you why that's terrifying.
Why?
Could you imagine? We played 2 playoff games in 20 years. Mm-hmm. He's out spending everybody in the league by $50 million.
Yeah.
And this is what we're getting?
He made a decision. Here's what happened.
You cannot buy a championship in this league. You can't. It's proven.
Hey, you know what? You can never really outgun a salesman. He got to be a billionaire for a reason, right? He tried it the regular way, Jay. He said, let's tear it down to the studs. We'll go out and draft these guys. We got 3 first-round picks. We'll draft the quarterback. We'll try to build around the quarterback and get him under a rookie deal and do it the regular, traditional way. They were halfway there. They was almost there. They made the playoff run. And right when it got time to give the quarterback that money, everything fell apart.
It did.
And so he said, listen, I'll be damned. I tried it your way. I'm going to try it the only way I know.
So, G, are you it is a good thing that he's willing to spend that money. But what's terrifying to me is if you tell me there's an NFL team that is spending $50 million in raw cash over the next, San Francisco made it to a Super Bowl. It's working for them. Who's number 3 on that list?
Philadelphia, $280 million.
Won a Super Bowl. Who's number 4?
Houston, $275.
Made a playoff run. I'm terrified because even with a $50 million spending advantage,
the next
won
three
one playoff
teams,
game in 20.
Hey, Mike, how long is what's the time span of this?
This is just for 2024.
Last year.
Okay, this is just for last year.
This is upcoming for this season.
What was the ranking for last year?
I have to figure out where.
Okay, that's a tough question.
So I guess the point I'm getting to is, ever since Jimmy Hassam has taken over this team, I think he's always kind of let us know, he's willing to spend money. I think the problem that you have
you gotta
is
spend it smartly.
He's not spending it smartly.
Look at the Guardians. The Guardians are down 26, 27, 28.
Let's say this.
They were in a World Series with the bottom of the payroll.
But Jay, let's give him some benefit of the doubt, right? Because when Jimmy Hassam first took over, he was an ignorant owner. He didn't know much, right? He would always say, I've talked to this person, I talked to that person. So he's listening to whoever would hear him talk.
He's got a lot of voices in his ear.
And when he first took over, who did he bring in? Banner and Lombardi with him? Probably some bad moves, right? I think over his tenure of ownership, he's becoming smarter as an NFL owner, but he's still spending money.
Now, listen, I like to think that that's true.
And
Andrew Berry, I think, is the best of the group by far.
Right.
Although I still think Dorsey didn't get a fair shake here.
I don't
and Dorsey did some good things.
I think Dorsey set up Andrew Berry for success very well.
I think he did too.
But Earl, don't you have to give him credit for this? He spent all that money, but guess what? It showed that they made the playoffs with backups.
Man, I give him credit just for spending money. The one thing I can say about him and Dan Gilbert, they spend the bread. Now, like Jay said, it's about spending it smartly. I just feel like over the last 5 or 6 years, Jimmy has been more smarter, with his money.
I think that's true.
But in the beginning, he was a little reckless, a little careless with it. But, Dan Gilbert spent money left and right all the time. We won a championship, so I'm never going to complain about that.
Guess what? It's not our money.
That money got us depth. That money said we're not going to give up. There's a lot of teams that would have gave up last year. They said play DTR. They go out and get Flacco. They give him an incentive-based contract.
He didn't even, wait, not to cut you off, but Flacco didn't even play the last game to reach the incentives. Jimmy went in his pocket and gave him the money anyway. Respect.
So
that's a great move.
My thing is, and I'm looking at it like this, man. It's he has the coach of the year 2 times in a row. Like, obviously, I don't know why he hasn't got a contract yet, but at the end of the day, and he has these guys that is put in a position to spend more money and to get more money and to flip the cap in their direction. I think of it like this. He tried it one way, and you got to a place where you had a roster that you thought was ready-made to win with no quarterback. And so he was the only one willing to be like, well, listen, I know what y'all saying. Y'all can't do it this way. Let's make the trade to go get Deshaun Watson. Now, for most, the Deshaun Watson thing hasn't worked out to the best of this ability.
The quarterback they had, who's had a very checkered past since he's left, has actually produced more than the quarterback they went out and paid $230 million.
That's a fact. Here's the thing. You're already here now. If you it, we put it in.
No, you got to make it work now.
You get right now. You can't pinch the pennies now.
No, you can't.
Now you just
can't lie in someone else's bed now.
You already here. Like, listen, as much as I want to, I just got a house. Guess what? You're already here. Ain't no giving the house back.
Okay, so bottom line in this conversation before we move on to our next topic.
I'm not messing with the
contract. You're not messing with the contract. I am intrigued by the idea that they get $33 million in cap space.
Yeah, at least that's what the article said.
Okay,
Jared Mueller wrote the article for
And by the
Dogs
way,
by
that's
Nature.
a very good site.
Right.
They have great Browns information.
Right.
What I would say then, if it means that Jimmy has to write a big check, but it gets us out of cap hell, write that check, Jimmy. Write that check. And here's the thing. This is the way I hope the story ends. In Dan Gilbert's case, look at all of the money Dan spent, not just in the luxury tax, but in paying everybody he paid to get here to win that title. And that was a massive amount of money that he spent.
And they was moving picks, and they was moving everything,
Right.
heaven and earth to get it.
And I think Dan's was, just give me one. I can't go through all this and come out with nothing. The 90s Indians came out with nothing.
Zero.
The 90 Braves, which won, I believe, 12 or 14 divisional titles in a row, won one World Series, and it was at our expense. So what if you're Jimmy Hassam and you're looking at Gilbert's model, maybe his model is the right way. I'll spend till the end of the earth, but I gotta deliver one. And in Dan Gilbert's case, he sat there on parade day because that was the day of fruition. That was the day that all the fruit from his labor was born on that day. For Jimmy Hassam to be able to sit on the streets of Cleveland and watch a parade that, I don't care if it's in early February or not, the streets would be lined with millions of people. He would be able to look at that and say it was worth every penny.
He did,
but he damn well better get to that parade.
I gotta go off of what Jay just said because it's funny. 2016, the Browns was 1-15, right?
Yes.
And I guarantee you, he watched everything. He probably even picked up the phone and called Dan Gilbert and got off that phone and looked at D and said, "Ain't no way in hell I'm not at least about to try to do what Dan just did."
And maybe
to
that
bring
did
a championship.
Maybe that
Because
spurred him spending like this.
You got the Guardians at that year. They went to the World Series. The Cavs won the championship, and you coming off of 1-15. And maybe because Jimmy said it at the moment that he took over as owner, "I'm not a patient man, and I'm not here for all this losing." And so to your point, maybe he looked at it like, you know what? I got the money to spend. Let me get somebody in here.
And you can't take it with you.
Let me get somebody in here, a la Andrew Berry, who knows what the hell he's doing with the salary cap, knows how to evaluate talent, because people sleep to this point. When he was an assistant or a scout in Indy, he played a huge role in them, finding Andrew Luck and Andrew Luck becoming a part of the Indianapolis Colts. So he probably looked at this like, man, I got somebody that know how to handle the salary cap, somebody that knows how to evaluate talent. Okay, if I'm going to spend all this money, at least I have somebody that for the most part can spend it the right way.
Knowing the Browns are spending $50 million more than their closest competitor next year, it's got to happen now. It's got to happen with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback, with Nick Chubb on whatever wheels he has left.
Amari Cooper on that last year.
With Amari Cooper. I mean, the window, although it's not slammed shut after the 24 season, it's more closing than opening. Remember the days of all these young guys that we had in here. Myles Garrett's no longer in the young guy category. He's in the aging veteran category. Mm-hmm. You got to win now. And maybe that's why he's saying, I don't care if I have to spend $300 million more than the San Francisco 49ers.
It's
time to have a parade.
At the end of the day, you'd rather have an owner willing to spend than a
We're
owner
lucky in that
willing
regard.
not to spend. All right, we're going to move on, guys, after a quick word from eBay Motors.